357 Magnum versus 40 Smith & Wesson. What we have today is our Fiocchi Defense Dynamics ammunition. Our 357 Magnum is a 148 grain jacketed hollow point rated at 1310 feet per second. Our 40 Smith & Wesson is a 165 grain rated at 1100 feet per second. So I'm going to use my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686 to test the 357 Magnum, and my 5-inch barrel M&P 42.0 to test the 40 Smith & Wesson. You got to remember that's about the same amount of barrel travel because the chamber is included in the measurement in a 5-inch pistol. It is not in a 4-inch revolver. So we get full 4 inches of bullet travel in that barrel. This we get a little bit less than 4 inches, but really close in overall bullet travel and size of gun. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential is of those cartridges are. Best potential for bullet expansion and penetration and all of that. And then we're going to do more of our real world simulation where I have 4 layers of denim in the first 3-inch piece here that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we'll have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard right here to represent hitting ribs or sternum. Into more clear ballistics, we'll see how they compare, more of that real world simulation. And then I'm going to shoot at my steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 165 grain 40 Smith & Wesson rated at 1100 feet per second. Let's see how close I get to 1100 feet per second in my Smith & Wesson M&P here. 1085, 1095, 1102, 1088, 1088. A 357 Magnum, 148 grain, rated at 1310 feet per second. Let's see how close I get to that 1310 on my it's actually a 4 1/4 inch barrel. Let's see what we get here. 1208, 1187, 1142, 1162, 1140. So that's extremely weak ammunition, and even though it's weak, it had a lot of blast and a lot of high-pitched sound. You know, this is a 148 grain. A 158 grain should get about 1250 feet per second out of a gun like this. So when we're talking a 148 grain bullet, it should be that 1310 feet per second. But this is nowhere near that. It's the power of a warm 38 plus P. So pretty disappointing with the energy. Let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, I forgot to hit the record on this downrange chronograph camera, but our 40s all hit right here. Our 357 mag hit here and over here. So pretty good accuracy with those. All right, plain clear ballistics. This 40 Smith & Wesson better perform at that velocity. 165 grain, about a little bit below 1100 feet per second. We were hitting our battle rated velocity. Federal HST performs at that velocity, so I'm hopeful this will perform, but I've never seen a bullet that looked quite like that before. So we'll see what we get in plain clear ballistics. 40 Smith & Wesson. All right, let's hit above that with our 38 plus P 357 Magnum, but those velocities were terrible. Let's see what we get with this. A lot of recoil. First thing I'm noticing is busted off pedals in that first 3-inch piece, so jacket separation immediately. Let's go take a look. All right, so this is interesting. I'm not really sure how to judge this, to be honest here. Now with our 40 Smith & Wesson, it looks like it did perform. And we got quite a good amount of damage going on and everything. And we have a penetration of about 14 inches. I can't see past the, clear ballistics bubbling, but, that penetration would obviously indicate bullet expansion. Now with the 357 Magnum, there's a whole bunch of pieces of busted off pedal in this first 3 inches. Several pieces there, a lot of energy dump, but busted off pieces of pedal. We have busted off pieces of pedal right as it enters here. We have some here at about 8 inches. We have a whole bunch of them that busted off here at about 13 to 14.5 inches. Then what was left is a core that went to an over penetration of about 22 3/4 inches. That's not too terrible for the over penetration, and it does look like it dumped a lot of energy, which would cause a lot of damage. It'd be very effective. So I'm not going to say it's a total fail, but as far as getting, you know, 1.5 times expansion with that remaining on the bullet, yeah, it doesn't look that good for what a 357 Magnum can be. So let's put on our denim, put on our MDF, and see how they compare that way. All right, more of our real world simulation. After 4 layers of denim, we'll have 3 inches of clear ballistics and a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum. Let's see how our 40 does. All right, let's hit that with our 357 Magnum. Let's go take a look. Interesting. Here's our impact with our 40. Here's our impact with our 357 Magnum. We can tell in that first 3 inches that there's no bullet expansion. Obviously it clogged with denim. We can tell with our 357 Magnum there is bullet expansion from the size of that. Now with our 40, this is really disappointing. This is, yeah. I have no idea how far this would go because it went through 35 inches of clear ballistics and that medium density fiberboard. So we had no expansion. That's legit over penetration. This type of over penetration could very easily pass through an attacker and injure somebody if they were standing behind them, or who knows how far that bullet would go, because it's a pretty powerful cartridge as well. So it could pass through that. It could come out the back of this still moving at 600 feet per second and travel for 1/8 of a mile. You never know. So seeing something like that is definitely a fail on that cartridge. Interesting thing though with our 357 Magnum is that denim actually caused that huge instant fragmentation to not happen, and it caused it to expand, looks more appropriately, and cause good tearing, damage, and cutting. Pretty much textbook with our 357 Magnum. 17 3/4 inches of penetration. We got about as much penetration as you want to get with a lot of damage without over penetrating. No, there's nothing wrong with that. So this is weird, because when we look at our 40 and our, you know, our test that's kind of set up to make cartridges look good, our 40 did excellent and our 357 Magnum did bad. But when we flip it over to denim, bone, our 357 Magnum did excellent. Our 40 Smith & Wesson was a complete failure. So obviously I'm going to take what I consider more real world at face value with the denim and the MDF. I'm going to say the 357 Mag did fine, and our 40 Smith & Wesson did terrible. So let's take a close-up look at these, and I'm going to shoot up my steel, see what kind of practical shootability I can get with these. All right, so before I show a close-up of these bullets, I want to show, you know, what I'm talking about with the 357 Magnum. We have a piece of copper right here hanging off the front. This is through our plain gel, and we can see just a little ways into it we have lead pieces busting off. Up here we have a whole bunch of copper pieces busting off. So we got a lot of fragmentation with that shot with the 357 Magnum through the plain clear ballistics, just a whole bunch. So we'll take a close-up look at these bullets here, and what we have here with our 40 Smith & Wesson is actually pretty surprising with what we got here. When we're looking at our plain gel shot, just a massive expansion. It's darn near 1 inch. So that performed amazingly for expansion, but yet just that little bit of denim caused 0 expansion and a penetration through 35 inches of gel. That is a lot of over penetration, but yet that's a lot of expansion in our plain gel. Now we look at our plain gel shot here with our 357 Magnum. I've never seen anything like this before. Got a couple upward horns kind of going up that way. That is weird. I don't even know how you would get something like that. Maybe tumbling? I'm not really sure. But we lost a lot of the diameter of that bullet with, you know, fragmentation of it. Now when we look at our MDF shot, again, this is weird with our 357 Magnum. Just this very inconsistent, weird looking expansion. I'm not going to say that's ineffective. I mean, if you were hit with that through the ribs and all of that, that looks like a surgeon's nightmare. That has petals going to the side and up. It's just not very consistent. It's not really what I like to see with ballistic testing. I like to see consistency. That being said, that's not bad, to be honest. So if we had to judge our real world performance, you know, over penetration with a 40, but this wicked thing after going through denim. So again, not bad performance with that 357 Magnum, but I think you could get better performance than that for the amount of felt recoil. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, 12 yards from the target. I'm just going to see what kind of practical shootability I can get with these. So I'm going to pull up and get a sight picture as fast as I think I can, and try to get some shots on target. So 40 Smith & Wesson. Shoots okay. 357 Magnum. Let's do that. I'll just save one of these and take a look at them because it didn't appear that they had a roll crimp on them. But I don't see any bullet crimp or creep. Seems fine. What's weird about these is they have all the felt recoil of a full power 357 Magnum, but not very much power. What they feel like is like if you were to take a powder that's meant for 9mm and you were to load it above the max charge of what it should be, that's kind of what these feel like. Feel like tight group powder or something where they're just, yeah, it just doesn't feel right. All right, missed that one. Let me back up a little bit and keep shooting just for fun, because at this point it's just for fun, because neither of these cartridges are impressing me that much. All right, 75 yards from the target. I'm back this far because I really don't care anymore at this ammunition. It didn't perform that well, so I like to come back and plink for fun, especially when I have my longer barrels. So 40 Smith & Wesson. See if I can do it this. Consistently hitting to the right for me, and I saw that a little bit on paper at close range, so I'm going to aim to the left just a little bit. Alright, that last string there I had to aim off the target to the left to hit, which is not typical for this particular pistol. It usually hits pretty good for me. 357 Magnum. Let's see what this does. Alright, I was just popping them off fast to see if there's anything consistent there, and they are hitting to the left for me. And I saw that on paper at close range too. So let me aim just a little bit to the right. Alright, so I had to aim off the target to the right. Which, you know, one shoot, they shot the same, that would kind of indicate me, but yeah, I'm pretty good with these particular handguns, so I think that they're just a little bit off from point of impact. I really don't like it when rounds shift to the right or to the left of my sights. It always feels kind of weird to me. I don't mind if there's a little bit of a windage change, because, you know, a person is taller than what they are wider, so when you're going for a self-defense shot, it doesn't make a major difference to me when I'm evaluating something for self-defense if it hits a little bit lower, hits a little bit higher. You know, if I aim right here and it hits here, I'm fine with that. But when you're aiming right here at an attacker and it hits here, I think that's a little bit weird, and I'm seeing that with this. This is a little bit weird. And overall, this performance is a little bit weird. This is not performance I've seen with anything else. It's just weird overall. That it's like kind of like it's designed for clear ballistics or organic gel performance for their 40 anyways. And then when you put it through more of a real world simulation, it doesn't perform at all. Our 357 Magnum kind of overperforms, but then when you put it with the more of a real world simulation, it seems to perform a little bit better. My guess is that the 357 Magnum is probably designed around and probably works pretty well overall with the snub nose revolver, 2-inch, 3-inch. It probably doesn't get that explosive over fragmentation in a shorter barrel. So overall, the takeaway from this stuff is it's not that great. It's weird overall. And in the 357 Magnum, now a 40 Smith & Wesson, I'm going to say that's a complete failure overall of this ammunition. Our 357 Magnum isn't a complete failure overall because it seemed like it worked really well. But the really weird thing about it is this very high-pitched blasty-like recoil that's as much recoil as a normal full-power 357 Magnum, but with significantly less energy. And even though I would say the 357 Mag isn't bad, and it would work, for the amount of recoil, you could get another 100 foot-pounds energy and have that cartridge be a lot more effective than this. So having the recoil the way it is with how much performance it has is kind of weird. It's not that good. So that's what you get today. I'm not impressed with this at all. I'm not switching away from 357 Magnum 125 grain semi-jacket, a hollow point like Remington, UMC, HTP, Federal. And with 40 Smith & Wesson, yeah, I'm not going to take my 165 grain HSTs out to load this junk in it. So that's what you get today with this interesting, fun test. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.